Welcome everyone. Should I remove? I'm gonna remove the Twitch chat because it's kind of blocking this area. All right, so guys, there's been I guess I didn't know what to call it. I just call it drama. It's drama, but it's not really, but it is. All right, so this is what's happening in StarCraft II right now. So for those that are unaware, I'm not gonna find the original thread for that, but basically with the recent Warchest that Blizzard has released for the buildings, they've also said that they're using $150,000 to sponsor a tournament. Now they've used wording like team league, something along those lines. So they didn't say it's a team league, but team league alike or something like that. And basically the issue that we're having is with Blizzard making that tournament, calling it a team league, but then it's not actually a team league. We had a lot of StarCraft II team owners and managers kind of, speak up against it. So we're going to read up. I'm going to tell you guys what I think. Let's get into it. All right, an open letter to Blizzard Entertainment from professional StarCraft II teams. On June 11th, Blizzard, in collaboration with Warty TV, announced a brand new Warchest Team League, which would be the first StarCraft II Team League directly supported by the main publishers is GSTL. There's no denying that bringing back a team-based tournament is great news overall, as the scene could really benefit from having more highly funded team events. That being said, on behalf of existing StarCraft II teams, we would like to raise our concerns with how this is being implemented. Seeing a team league with $150,000 behind it, operations plus prize pooling, that excludes current professional teams is disappointing from the perspective of us team owners. While we do understand that this is supposed to be a fun community event, this format disregards current teams that would really benefit from this sort of event. Blizzard could do more to support the StarCraft II teams, and unfortunately the Warchest Team League is a big missed opportunity for them to do so. Teams play an integral role in the development of StarCraft II players, and we would like Blizzard to provide more support for the teams that help the very players who make up the professional scene. So there you go. That's pretty much what's going on right now. As we uncover more details, I'll pause, but this is pretty much what I've just said. Team owners are having the issue with Blizzard making a team league. That I'm using this because there's more information regarding this a little bit further down the line, but they're unhappy because Blizzard has never organized a actual team league, right? Except GSTL, which was in Korea. The role of professional teams in StarCraft II. For more than 20 years of its esports history, StarCraft has mainly been an individual discipline. Given the lack of regular major team events, the contribution of professional teams to the development of the StarCraft II competitive scene seems less obvious and noticeable to the general public, but is no less important. A regular StarCraft II viewer might not pay any attention to a particular player's clan tag, but every viewer is interested in seeing fresh blood compete at the highest level of StarCraft II scene. Professional teams play a great role in their process. They scout young talent, provide them with financial support, and give them opportunities to travel to and participate in major tournaments. Without this support, the up-and-coming players find it much more difficult to develop into players who are able to challenge the professional scene elite players. Teams provided younger players like Astria, Clem, Future, Raynor, Skillus, and Vanya support in order to help them succeed. While Blizzard has already done a great job in growing the competitive scene with the WCS system and passing the torch onto ESL with ESL Pro Tour, the majority of players only get the chance to travel and participate in these major tournaments because of their team's financial support. That support provided by teams is often not a profitable business, so support from the developer is necessary to offset these costs and help keep the scene in a healthy place. Now, what I will say for this part is I agree with this. I mean, a lot of you guys probably have no clue which teams Raynor was in. I actually used to be on the same team as Raynor was. and he was like a little potato back then. Like, you know, he was on a team, he had a jersey. I'm not sure how the sponsorship was dealt with him, but he would basically travel to events and get wrecked in, you know, the first round of group stage. I remember he would come with his dad to events that my team went to, and the question is, if he didn't have a team, would his dad go with him? Would he even attend an event? And would he actually become the player that Rainer is today? I don't know. But I'm going to say that having a team definitely helps with that, and definitely, you know, influences that part. Even though a lot of people, like I said, have no clue what teams he was previously on, they're very, very important into growing these players. Because when you're at the top level, and when you look at your first team, you don't really consider it like a big deal. Like, oh yeah, I was in this team, you know, didn't do much. But same for me back in the day when I joined my first team, which wasn't even sponsored, I was proud to be part of the team. You know, I was proud to have clanmates, teammates that I could practice with, that I could discuss. You grow some kind of bond, you have a connection, and who knows, maybe if I didn't enter that team back then, I wouldn't continue playing StarCraft. Maybe I would get bored. Maybe I wouldn't be motivated to practice, because I was motivated because I had a team and I had players in my team and I wanted to be best in my team, right? Whenever you want to be a world-class athlete, you don't wake up at 6 years old and you're like, I'm going to win the world championship for whatever, right? You want to be first in your class, then you want to be first in your school, then you want to be first in your county, then you want to be first in your city, then you want to be first in the surrounding cities, then you want to be first in your country, and that's how it develops, but that develops over years, right? So I think that having teams, even though they're not necessarily, I mean, I don't know what the deal is with every single team here being brought up, but even if they're not paying the players, I definitely think it you know, helps that part of development and motivates players to practice. Because if you're just a random potato and suddenly you get GM and you maybe top 100 GM and a team messages you and like, hey, do you want to join our team? You got all these practice partners you can get with this, you're more than welcome, you know, we'll slap a t-shirt on you, we'll give you a keyboard, and you're like, holy shit, like, this is my entry, you know? So I do agree with this, and I've talked about this before regarding teams in StarCraft II. There is a general problem with no teams in StarCraft II. It's not that there's no teams. There's actually quite a few teams in StarCraft II. It's just there's no focus on them. You know, this is going to be one of those back in my day when I was in Team Empire. There were so many team leagues, and we would participate in every single team league. And there were, you know, there was EG, Liquid, MYM, Dignitas, Fnatic, Team Empire that I was in. You know, there were a bunch of teams. And why were those teams in StarCraft II? Well, because having a team back then, not only StarCraft was a super popular game, but having a team back then actually meant something. And what it meant is, you know, every time I joined a LAN tournament, I was representing my team. Every time I joined an online cup, I was representing my team. There was more focus on teams, right? People were like, Team Empire was a huge team in StarCraft II, right? So whenever we picked up a new player, people were like, holy shit, Team Empire just picked up this guy, he must be good. And what teams got in return is there were team leagues, like I said, solo competitions, and your players were often represented. And having team leagues brings that team effort, even though it's one-on-ones. You guys discuss strategies, you guys discuss who's going to play against who and stuff like that. So not having that part right now, and I think this is a little bit of everyone's fault. Like Empire Dystar, yeah, he used to be an Empire as well. The problem right now is, I mean, I'm not going to blame the casters necessarily or anyone specifically, but it's just kind of how it is. How did we get here? I mean, I don't really know, but, you know, whenever you watch a stream or tournament, people are like, oh, it's, you know, Beasty from team, what is this? Potato. Do they have any other players? Like, nobody knows, right? Because I feel like everyone's doing a bad job. I'm not saying the teams, but the scene is doing a bad job in promoting the teams, right? And it doesn't really hold a lot of value. So why is this? Well, because in tournaments, that's not really brought up, right? Nobody knows who's on what team. I don't know who's on what team, right? I don't, because it's not brought up in any discussion. Maybe sometimes in passing, someone's going to say, oh yeah, this player's on this team. But that's about it. I have no idea who's on it, no idea when the player joined, no idea what the plan with the team is. Nobody knows. So another big reason because for this is team leagues. If there's no team leagues, a lot of people bring up a good point. What's the point of teams then? You're just like kind of like a paid mercenary to play one-on-ones for them and have their logo. So I think the lack of team leagues is probably a major reason why you guys and me and everyone else has no clue who's on what team. I mean, do you guys know any Korean team other than Jin Air Green Wings? People don't even know that team's alive. It is. It's been alive the whole time. People just have no clue. So, yeah. Warchest Team League format, its pros and cons. Now, this is what we're going to discuss now. I just kind of wanted to set you up what teams really mean, what they do for the community, and what's happening now with them, and what used to go on with them before. And people also used to have like favorite teams, right? Now it's only favorite players. But back in the day, a lot of people would say, you know, if you guys remember, every time EG would sign a player, their player would get a shit ton of fans just because he's EG, not because he's that player. But teams had a value, you know. They were important. It was a big thing to be part of a certain team. Now, KT Rolster is not in StarCraft II. What do you mean? I'm pretty sure 95% of the people in the chat or watching this on YouTube later will know maybe Team Liquid and Junior Green Wings right now. I'm 90% sure that other people cannot name 3 teams. It's just how it is. So, according to the official announcement, the format of this team league will include 9 casters drafting teams with 4 players each for a total of 36 players. As you can see, this format excludes existing professional teams. This team league format reduces our motivation to keep our teams running, as representation from players is a major part of running our teams in the first place. This team league format reduces our motivation. Moreover, it may take actual teams less appealing to existing and prospective sponsors. There are certainly positive sides of such a format for this tournament. A deeper involvement of casters in the team format makes it easier to raise 150,000 from sales of war chests. It also allows to introduce a very likable format of team competitions to the wider audience. Still, we're wondering if there's another way to get casters involved, along with providing more support for existing professional teams. Now, one thing that I'm not sure, and I don't think Blizzard has said it specifically, but I don't think that if you're in a team, you're banned from entering these things. Like, if, let's say a team has 10 players. So if one player is whoever, right? He can still be drafted into one of the 9 teams, but it's going to be only him, and he won't be representing his team in a tournament. He will be representing the caster. So again, the teams are pushed away. So that's his point. And another point that he's making is, even if you had a team filled with GM players, you cannot sign up. There's no way to get your team into this team league, because the casters will pick, and if casters don't want players from your team, they're not going to play. So, proposed changes to Warchest Team League format. We urge Blizzard to review the current format of Warchest Team League and allow professional teams to participate in it. To do so, we would like to propose the following changes. Run an open qualification process with any team allowed to participate as long as they meet a certain criteria. Teams must have full GM rosters. Divide the teams into several divisions based on overall EPT points. I think that's ESL Pro Tour points, like WCS points from before. And run several seasons throughout the entire year. This will provide stable team competition throughout the year and gives teams stronger reason to continue operating and to bolster their rosters. Between seasons, run new qualifiers to give new team opportunities to participate and preventing existing teams from remaining complacent. Another way of getting casters involved, after your qualifications are over, casters can choose a team they want to work with. Then they can work together to produce content. Otherwise, Blizzard can host another all-star event with the caster/player teams. We're happy that Blizzard has once again turned their attention to team competitions and are ready to make every effort to produce a great show out of it. Anyway, in order to achieve that, hashtag let teams play in StarCraft II, please. Hashtag let teams play in your league. Now, I agree with this and I disagree with this. Let me finish reading and then I'll tell you guys why I agree why I disagree. Along with our proposed changes to the Warchest system, Warchest Team League above, we would also like to bring your attention to Blizzard's lack of support for teams in general. To address this concern, we would like to propose the following changes. Provide professional teams with monetization options as long as they meet certain criteria. These monetization options being in the form of selling in-game items. This will not happen. This will not happen. This was a suggestion when StarCraft was at its peak. And the reason why Blizzard didn't want to do it is because each team is international and they didn't know how they would deal with sales and how they would sell stuff. So this will not happen. If it didn't happen back in the day, it will not happen now 100%. For example, allowing teams to upload graphics such as logo designs, player pictures, or other assets, it's not going to happen. Or sprays that would be sold. Perhaps also team-themed consoles. There's a precedent for this, with Blizzard commissioning player portraits for players who have qualified for BlizzCon, as well as flag portraits for Nation Wars. I agree with him, but it will just not happen. Create unofficial teams of standing based on player performances and results so that teams would have more visibility and relevance. I agree with this. This is a cool idea. Perhaps also reward top performing teams in the end of the year with a competition or modest prize money. OSC has run this before in the past. OSC Team Championship 2018. Establish a direct line of communication between teams and Blizzard. Private Discord server with Blizzard and team owners/managers. And then all the teams signed. And yeah. So I agree that this would be really cool. It just will not happen. So this is the issues, right? So you guys get the premise. You guys get what's happening. And I do agree with who made this? Sugar SC2. I agree with him. The team leagues should be in the game, in the scene rather, right? There should be team leagues, and Blizzard should organize them. And the worst part about the fact that Blizzard's not doing it is because it wouldn't be a lot of work. So, now Wardy has Wardy is casting this and organizing this. So Wardy has since come out. I'm not gonna pull out the comment, but basically what he said is he cannot give all the information regarding how the event will be run. And he said it's not a literal team league. There's just going to be teams that are picked, kind of like a new format. But it's not like a replacement for Team League, or it's not like they're taking the money from teams. It's just a tournament with a different format. And there will probably be different things that the way it's going to work. I don't know, but they haven't released full details on it. Now, with that being said, if Blizzard is already willing to organize these kinds of events outside of, live tournaments because of, the whole thing that's happening in the world, I never understood something. Why did Blizzard give $150,000 for this one event? Like, why? Why not give 30,000 and then save the other 120,000 and organize one event a month, or organize a few different events? You know, why not? And what I would do if I was Blizzard, I don't mind them putting a big cash event, right? Because they didn't have live tournaments like with ESL. So I don't mind seeing them put this like 100,000 tournament even with this kind of setup. But why didn't they take out 50K from that 150K and said, we're going to use this 50K to make a team league where it's an actual team league? What's the harm, right? And I know what people are going to say straight away. Well, teams in StarCraft II are not as competitive as they used to be. Correct. They're not as competitive as they used to be because there's no reason to be. Like, why would team recruit 6 players for team leagues if there's no team leagues? But imagine Blizzard announces a $50,000 tournament for teams. Do you not think ENCE, that has Cyril only in the whole team, you don't think they would pick up whichever 2 players? They would pick up 2 players for 50 euros a month just so that Cyril could play. And then there it is. ENCE is now viable to play. And I know people might be like, well, that's like cheating, or that's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Because then you have another team that has 2 more players that are now more motivated to play, and ENCE is probably paying them something, whether it's a jersey, whether it's a sponsorship, whether it's whatever, because suddenly ENCE, there's another way to represent their brand with Cyril. Cyril would still be the all-star, just like every team is an all-star, but now they can enter a team league that's $50,000 that will span over next couple of weeks, couple of months. I don't know how the team league would be run. But then you would have all the other teams, you know? We have a bunch of teams that just have 1 player. Those teams would pick up a couple more players in order to participate in that team league. Right now, there is no incentive for them to do so, because right now the way teams are run is you just want the most popular players, 1 or 2. It's actually more worth to pick up the best player than to pick up 3 mediocre players, because that 1 player will give you more exposure because he will go to the grand finals more often, like Cyril. So the reason why the teams are not strong like they used to be and why players are not sponsored is because there's no team leagues. And again, if you have 150,000 to work with, are you really going to make the event that they had planned? Are you really going to make it worse by putting 100,000 on it and giving 50,000 to team leagues? I don't think so. You know, I think that would be way better for the scene, way better for the teams, way better for lower league players. And you can even go, step further, like he mentions. Make 3 divisions. Make division top pro level, right? With like ENCE, Showtime, Special, Clem, Team Liquid, whatever. Make a medium division for like, I don't know, top 100 to top 100, top 200 GMs, right? Team league. And then make a lowest ranked team league, which would be up to, I don't know, Master 1, whatever. And then you could give the Master 1 league $2,000 over the course of a few months, where players can practice, work for. You want to grow your little potatoes. The potato doesn't just grow all of a sudden. You have to grow it slowly. The biggest motivation and biggest benefit wouldn't be from the top GMs competing in Team League. Yes, for viewers, that's exciting. But for your community, the biggest benefit is in the 100 to 200 GM players and up to Master 1, because those players will be replacing the players we have today. Just giving more money to top end players is not doing anything for the scene. Yes, they're staying in the scene longer. But again, do you think Cyril's going to quit playing because this tournament has $100,000 instead of $150,000? He will not. All the players at a top level are still going to play. You just get more value for your money. And that's basically the way I think about it. I think some of these demands are good points. Some of them I don't think will ever happen. But I think one thing we can all agree on, and I mean, I would love if someone has a different point of view, but there is zero downside to putting this tournament for 100K and taking 50K for team leagues. Now, I don't think that this tournament specifically eats money from team leagues because money wasn't given to team leagues in the first place. But since this point was brought up, which is a good point, and, you know, that's something I never thought about. Like, why is there no team league sponsored by Blizzard? And you don't even need 50K, by the way. I'm 100% sure that if it was a $10,000 team league, you would see teams picking up players, 100%. Because it's not about their players winning the tournament. It's about their players being seen on streams in front of tens of thousands of people watching, whether it's on Twitch or on YouTube, and those teams taking that data and showing it to their sponsors. And sponsors being like, great, those are like 4 times more views that your players gotten than last month. Here's another whatever amount of money. Or that will allow them to sign more sponsors, which in return allows them to sign more expensive and better players. That's how you grow the scene. And again, we lost like the importance of teams over time, because there just isn't any incentive for it. Because even today, you know, top players when they join teams, they don't give a shit where did the team come from, like, or I don't know why they're competing or who is in the team. It doesn't matter for them because it's lost the purpose. You know, if you join a team, it's not like, oh man, I'm going to practice with those guys. That doesn't exist anymore. And it's just because of how the scene has developed. And I know a lot of people will say, well, you know, community can always organize things like those and it doesn't have to be Blizzard. I agree. It doesn't have to be Blizzard. They can give out the team league to Wardy the same way like they gave him this tournament. They can give him the team league. He's organized tournaments before. He knows how to do it. But I think we can also all agree that way more people watch when, you know, Joe Bro 69 organizes a $1,000 tournament, and when Blizzard announces on their website that they're organizing, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 tournament. There's a massive difference in those things because whole company is supporting that tournament. So you're more inclined to join in because you expect higher quality games, you expect higher quality players, and just organization in general. So, yeah. With that being said, that's my opinion. The one thing I can say, we don't know what the format for this tournament will be exactly, but I think it's also irrelevant at the same time, because I saw some people bring up the argument of, well, like the format's different, it's not really, but that's irrelevant. Even if this tournament didn't happen, same question arises. Why is Blizzard not making a team league? Especially right now. Like, just make another Warchest, right? Make another Warchest and take all that money and put it into a team league. Because it's different content. Yes, it's still StarCraft, it's still 1-on-1. You know, it's team-based. Suddenly you can start cheering for teams, maybe add a 2v2, like back in Warcraft 3 days. People would love that. But if there's no incentive for Blizzard, nobody will care. It's just how it is. It's just how it is. But I do agree that Blizzard in general, in the letter they wrote it like team league. I understand it's not a team league. I understand it's 9 casters picking out players and making teams and playing. But my point remains the same. Why is there no team leagues? They literally wouldn't need to do anything. They would just need to pay out to whoever wins the team league in the end. And they could give Wardy content for weeks, months to organize. I don't know. I think another good example of this is Nation Wars. People love Nation Wars because it's team based. There's that team spirit, that country spirit that you can cheer for, and it's not too late to do the same with teams. Because I think if people think that, for example, Cyril wouldn't be able to play in a team league, I disagree. I 100% believe that ENCE would pick up 2 more players, up to 3 total, just so that Cyril can play. And I don't see that as cheating in any way, because it's a team league. We've seen many teams in the past in StarCraft where you had 1 star player and 2 mediocre players. No one ever complained about that. And then you also had teams that had 3 top level pro gamers in it, and they won. But guess what? They were the best team. That's the whole point, right? It's not a point about fairness. It's about which team is the best. And team with the best players will win. Players are also mercenaries sometimes too for teams, but that's fine. I mean, if we look at it realistically, every player is a mercenary for every team. If you want, like, sports, right? They still get signed for money. They get signed to give the team victories in exchange for money. It's a contract. That's how it is. You don't necessarily need to have a team that's like buddy with each other, but that buddy thing also doesn't get seen by the outside viewers and audience. But if they're working together, you're organizing some, like, maybe post-game interviews with the teams, they can say what their strategy was. I think all of that is just cool, and what it's missing. So regarding your earlier point about in-game monetization that Blizzard will simply not do, why not? Blizzard has shown that it is willing to make team-based in-game monetizations. Because for StarCraft, I think it's too late, and I know back in the day they didn't want to do it when StarCraft was at its peak. So I think it's a good idea, but it will not happen because Blizzard will probably not get involved in that. That's why. So yeah, basically, Team League, more teams, more players signed to teams, more little potatoes growing, more sponsors, more team leagues, better players on teams, stronger teams, and then you end up with 8 teams that have top pro gamers over time. This is not going to happen in a month, but this will happen over time. How do I know that? Because that's how it works in every single game. But yeah, I would love to know your guys' opinion, whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on Twitch, let's keep going.